This is The Download from Sounds Profitable, your daily source for the essential news of the business of podcasting. Brought to you by Spreaker from iHeart. I'm Gavin Gaddis. Here's what you need to know for today, Tuesday, July 9th. First up, Spotify adds Comments podcast management app. Last year, Spotify debuted both Q&A and poll functionality for podcast profiles within the Spotify app. Now, Spotify for Podcasters has introduced the ability for podcast audiences to leave comments on podcasts. In addition, the Spotify for Podcasters dashboard is now available on mobile and desktop to allow for more granular management of a podcast within Spotify's ecosystem. The new app is also platform agnostic, not requiring users to host their show on Spotify for Podcasters to make use of it. Next up, Melrose Place gets rewatch podcast as Charmed show gets reboot. Celebrity-fronted rewatch shows continue to grow in popularity. The House of Halliwell, a Charmed rewatch podcast, which originally ran for 2 seasons with funding from Patreon, is relaunching on iHeartMedia's podcast network, starting over from the beginning of the show with Charmed star Shannon Doherty as co-host. On the drama side of TV, CBS is in the process of rebooting their 90s hit drama Melrose Place. In the build-up to that show, 3 of the original Melrose Place actors are set to host an iHeart podcast rewatch show of the original show. A move that further demonstrates rewatch podcasting's ability to generate hype and keep an IP front of mind before the show hits air, not just after. Next up, reaching LGBTQ+ consumers is important all year round, and here's how to do it. This Pride Month, brand marketing efforts towards the LGBTQ community were notably less present than previous years, with the number of brands directing marketing explicitly towards queer audiences coming in at 55%. A combination of recent backlash to campaigns like Bud Light's partnership with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney, as well as data regarding sexuality and transgender status being considered sensitive information, could be contributing to this downturn. This results in limited targeting options and a push not to use first-party data to identify queer consumers. The initial solution is to identify content with a visibly queer audience, as well as LGBTQ-owned content, and invest in that. And finally, the best bet in sports content right now? Nielsen says it may be women's sports. From the 2024 Women's NCAA Tournament reaching a peak of 24 million viewers at the final game, to the UK's National Women's Soccer League receiving a 17% boost in interest between 2023 and 2024, according to Nielsen, fandom for women's sports is on the rise. Last month at Cannes Lion, iHeartMedia and Deep Blue launched their Women's Sports Audio Network, a joint investment set to target the rapidly growing audience. The new network and its accompanying Women's Sports Podcast Network hope to increase accessibility for fans, one of the biggest hurdles to the space's growth. Projected to reach about 75 million listeners a day, the network launches with the daily news podcast Good Game with Sarah Spain. As for the rest of the news, AI engine Barometer and ad platform AudioHook have released a new brand suitability framework designed specifically for podcasting. Spooler Media has been awarded 2 U.S. patents for their automatic media content layering system. Vodafone has begun giving ads an in-house creative quality score. The podcast host has released its 2024 Podcaster Gear Survey of the industry. And Buttermilk Chief Growth Officer Zoe Mitchell provides a breakdown on brand partnerships and handling controversies. Be sure to check out the links to every article mentioned right in your podcast listening app or at soundsprofitable.com, where you can also subscribe to the newsletter version. The Download is written and produced by myself, Newton Shuttlecotty, Brian Barletta, and Tom Webster. This episode is hosted on Spreaker. For Sounds Profitable, I'm Gavin Gaddis. Download us again tomorrow.